It has started on the front line. A fierce battle. Putin's troops stumbled in the Dnipropetrovsk region. Our forces acted proactively. Pokrovsk groans. Kostyantynivka is hanging by a thread. For this, the Ukrainian armed forces have prepared a dose of revenge. It will finally wipe out the Russians. The first behind-the-scenes details. All this in our episode Hellpoint. The occupiers let something slip. The Ukrainian armed forces uncovered the enemy's plans for the Dnipropetrovsk region. They were preparing to receive medals. Instead, our guys gave them a taste of birch porridge. They're pushing into the Sumy and Pokrovsk regions, breathing fire. Russian generals are going mad and ordering their troops to advance. But on the front lines, the unexpected happens. How are the Ukrainian armed forces striking the enemy at the hottest sections of the front and disrupting the summer offensive? More on this in the following report.
To pull defense forces away from other directions and expand the bridgehead for an offensive. These are the goals the Russians have set for themselves in the Sumy region.
The enemy started building up forces here as early as last year. That's why the enemy is constantly reinforcing this direction. However, the enemy has not been able to expand the areas where even these small assault groups try to break through, because, in fact, in this territory, mainly in the direction of the settlements of Besivka, Zuravka, Veselivka and Volodymyrivka, the Russians are dying by the dozens.
According to the State Border Guard Service, the main focus in this direction for the occupiers is on infantry and aviation. In recent days, they have even reduced their use of motorcycles.
KABs, unguided aerial rockets. These are all the things the enemy uses collectively to shell this area. Recently, I can also note that these small assault groups, in particular, mostly used quad bikes or motorcycles as well, quite frequently. In the past few days, even the use of this equipment has actually, in fact, practically decreased significantly.
Meanwhile, in the Sumy region, mandatory evacuation has been introduced in 11 communities. Overall, due to constant shelling and danger, people are being urged to leave more than 200 settlements in the Sumy region. Another priority direction for the enemy, where they have concentrated their manpower, remains Pokrovsk. With small infantry groups, they are continuously assaulting our positions. The military says that the enemy is trying to bypass and encircle the city of Pokrovsk itself. Their main objective is to break through our flanks.
There hasn't been a single day when they haven't launched their offensives. Except for, well, a few rare cases when they really get hit hard and need to regroup, and even then maybe only 1 or 2 assaults happen in a day. But that is very rare. They are constantly conducting reconnaissance by combat.
First they use drones, and then under the cover of artillery the infantry advances.
There are a large number of drones, including those on fiber optic cables which fly in everywhere they possibly can. This is the biggest danger right now.
Meanwhile, the soldiers say the Russians are already fantasizing about reaching the Dnipropetrovsk region, so they can boast about another victory at the front in their propaganda.
We even hear this in intercepted communications, what they talk about on their radios and so on, that there will be so-called rewards for this. Someone gets leave, someone gets...
The situation also remains difficult on the Turkish sector of the front. There are non-stop battles and assaults. Here, the Russians are actively using quad bikes to maneuver and reach our positions.
The enemy is trying to carry out assault operations, both to capture the city of Toretsk itself and the towns on the flanks. We see that, as usual, there is extensive use of drones here. As for the overall activity in the Toretsk direction, it involves Toretsk itself, as well as Delivka, Nelipivka and Sherbinivka. And, of course, these are also attempts by the enemy to operate in the direction of Yablonivka and Rusinyar.
As the military notes, in the Toretsk and Pokrovsk directions, the enemy has significantly increased and intensified the use of drones, aviation and artillery.
Right now we see that the number of glide bombs launched by the enemy in a single day can exceed 100. And in particular this week there were days when there were up to 130, 137 strikes carried out specifically with these glide bombs. And also the number of artillery users we see has increased to an average of about 5,000, sometimes even more, shellings per day along the front line.
The occupiers have also become more active in the north of the Kharkiv region. Here, the Russians are trying to expand the so-called buffer zone and push our forces out of the positions they hold in Vovchansk.
here the enemy traditionally relies heavily on aviation, and as for direct assault actions, these are infantry groups. And in recent months, we have seen that in these areas, the number of drones used has also increased, specifically those that carry, let's say these are kamikaze drones that carry a combat payload, as well as the appearance of drones operating via fiber optic control.
Meanwhile, in the Kupiansk area, the Russians are trying to build pontoon crossings over the Oskil River in order to move heavy equipment across. Although now, along the entire front line, the enemy rarely uses tanks and infantry fighting vehicles because the war has taken on a new technological dimension where drones play one of the leading roles, and whoever has more of these means will be the one to win. Lyudmila Havrilyuk, We Are Ukraine, Marathon, United News.
Urgent report from Kostyantynivka. Drones are hovering in the air, constant terror, minute by minute. The tension is rising. The city is unrecognizable. The Russians have gone berserk, striking without mercy. The Ukrainian armed forces are fighting to the end. How are they managing to repel the enemy's human wave assaults, and what is left of the city? More on this in the following report.
Burnt-out cars by the roadside, houses torn apart by shelling, and nets stretched over wooden poles above the road. This is what Kostyantynivka looks like. It is just 10 kilometers from the front line. In reality, every trip to Kostyantynivka, which now really resembles Pokrovsk, is a kind of lottery with so many drones around. Even though our car is reinforced with metal, it's armored, we have a rifle to shoot down these drones, and a bunch of electronic warfare equipment, but that's not a cure-all to protect yourself from enemy copters. Because even during our current trip, we can hear the drone detector going off and warning us that they're nearby.
I'm showing FPV now. Yes, this one is flying at 855. Then here's Mavic. Zala is hanging above us. Here's ours hanging a Scout. Flying. What?
And how many of those?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of them.
Our vehicle is armored, and we can't hear what's happening outside of it, but it's easy to see through the window how Russia is destroying the city.
If you look up there, even the cars are damaged. Over there, even the cars are damaged there. Just now there was movement, an impact look. You see the smoke is rising.
Police officers Yevgeny and Roman are heading out to evacuate residents.
We're taking 2 people, 2 with limited mobility, and there will be an escort.
There are still more than 7,000 people remaining in Kostyantynivka, but every day up to 10 locals leave the city, as Russia is making life here impossible for them.
There's no electricity at all. Well, in some areas there's no water or gas either, so it's just impossible. That is, the drones don't allow utility services to connect or repair, the power lines.
Roman gets out of the car with a hunting rifle.
We get out of the car. As we move, we watch over and cover each other and keep an eye on the sky because there really are a lot of enemy drones, so many, and all kinds of different types constantly overhead.
80-year-old Valentina and her husband Dmitro are already waiting on the doorstep of their homestead. They only recently evacuated from the neighboring village of Stepanivka, which the enemy burned to the ground. Now they've been left homeless for the second time.
Last night there was shooting loud, sudden gunfire, echoing outside, and then not just that, but a knock at the door, and you start shaking. It's really, truly terrifying.
All their belongings fit into a few suitcases. The police are loading their belongings into an armored van. And in the neighboring town of Drushkivka, Zurab is already waiting for the pensioners with his medevac, which will take them to a resettlement center in the Odessa region.
Any stops you need, restroom, if someone feels unwell, water, anything at all, just let us know and we'll stop.
Zurab is mapping out the route. He says that now this has to be done even more carefully, because the Russians don't hesitate to strike even an ambulance with drones. Here, in this footage, is Zurab's previous vehicle, which never made it to pick up the woman.
As we entered the village, we spotted a drone and then we saw it was following us. We tried to speed up, but the road was bad and we couldn't pick up enough speed to get away. Well, I got up to 130, slowed down a bit in one spot, and at that moment it hit us.
We were lucky that there was no one inside the vehicle. The car is being repaired, and the medics suffered concussions. But the next day, they still managed to evacuate the elderly woman.
He flew right over us. He could clearly see what kind of vehicle it was. He saw that it was a medical vehicle. He saw the markings of the Proliska humanitarian mission. He saw all of this, and moreover, I think he wanted to fly around in front towards the windshield, but because I started to speed up, he just struck wherever he could.
Zurab closes the ambulance door. The pensioners have an 8-hour journey ahead of them, away from the war, and the police officers turn the car back toward the city again. There are still several more trips ahead. They say people are eager to leave Kostyantynivka as the fighting draws closer, and they need to evacuate as many locals as possible before the front line reaches the city itself. Yulia Krienko, Volodymyr Parakhonsky, Ole Mostovi, TSN 1+1 United News Marathon.
Russian aviation has once again fallen into a trap set by the Ukrainian armed forces. A Putin-era Su aircraft was blown apart over Russian positions. The F-16 put on a masterclass in the sky. On the ground, new armored vehicles will be conducting courses on the successful elimination of the enemy. This is a real breakthrough. A swarm of drones. How many of these birds will be able to finally incinerate Russia and its army? More details on this in the following report.
F-16 versus Su-35. The first victory in history of a NATO fighter over Russia's best aircraft. On June 7th, something happened in the skies over the Kursk region that will go down in military aviation textbooks. For the first time ever, an F-16 fighter shot down a Russian Su-35 in an aerial battle. This strike was carried out by Ukraine, and it wasn't the work of a single aircraft, but of a coordinated system where every link performed precisely. According to Bild, the operation began as a routine combat sortie. A Ukrainian F-16 struck Russian targets near the border. In response, the Russians scrambled a Su-35, one of the most advanced fighter jets in the Russian arsenal. But this was an anticipated move. They were already waiting for the interception. The Ukrainians deployed not only F-16s with missiles and guided bombs, but also a Swedish Saab-340 reconnaissance aircraft, which serves as the eyes in the sky. It was this aircraft that detected the target 200 to 300 kilometers from the border and relayed the coordinates to the Ukrainian fighter jet. When the Su-35 entered the strike zone, the F-16 launched an AIM-120 missile. It is capable of hitting targets at a distance of up to 50 kilometers. Everything worked flawlessly. The Russian military fighter jet was shot down 16 kilometers from the Ukrainian border near the city of Kurenivo. According to Russian media, the Su-35 pilot was able to eject. The Ukrainian F-16 returned to base without any losses. This is not just a victory in the air, it is a symbolic turning point. For the first time, a NATO fighter not only encountered the Su-35 but destroyed it in real combat, and did so in coordination with Western intelligence and command systems. Officially, the Ukrainian Air Force reports the destruction of the Su-35, but does not provide details regarding the pilot. Meanwhile, new armor is arriving for the Ukrainian army. The Ukrainian army has received the latest Varta 2 and Hivza 2 vehicles. The Ministry of Defense has officially approved 2 new tactical armored vehicles, the Varta 2 and the Hivza 2, for use by Ukraine's defense forces. Both are the result of Ukrainian development, taking into account wartime experience and real requests from the front lines. The Varta 2 is robust, aggressive and technologically advanced. This MRAP class armored vehicle was created as a universal platform. It is produced in 3 variants. This includes a basic model, a variant with an armored turret for a 12.7mm machine gun, and a modification with a remote combat module for weapons of 12.7, 14.5 or 30mm. The vehicle is fully equipped with comprehensive protection. It has ballistic resistance at the Stanek 4569 level 6, withstanding 7.6 to 54mm B-32 bullets from a distance of 10 meters. The vehicle is also equipped with mine protection, capable of withstanding up to 8 kilograms of TNT equivalent under the hull. Inside there are anti-mine seats, a suspended floor, shock absorbers and reinforcements. Under the hood there is a 6.7-liter turbo diesel engine and an automatic transmission. The vehicle is equipped with navigation, camouflage, fire suppression and air filtration systems, and is ready to handle chemical and biological threats. In turn, the Gyriza 2 is an evolution based on experience. This is an upgrade of the already proven Gyriza 1 vehicle, which is actively used at the front. The model has received reinforced armor protection, improved off-road capability, and greater resistance to explosions. As for the main features, it has the same reliable 6.7 turbo diesel engine, automatic transmission, dual circuit braking system, and an improved suspension. The troop compartment can withstand armor-piercing incendiary bullets of 7.6 to x39mm and 7.6 to x54mm calibers. The V-shaped hull can withstand mines with up to 8 kilograms of TNT equivalent. Herza 2 has a universal mount for any machine gun with a caliber of up to 14.5mm. It's a convenient platform for fire support in any conditions. These are not just more vehicles, this is an armored shield created in Ukraine, and most importantly, this equipment has already been officially approved and is ready for combat operations. In the Donetsk region, the enemy is changing tactics, fewer assaults and more use of aviation. In Toretsk, Kramatorsk and Siversk directions, there has been a decrease in the number of assault actions. However, Russian forces have started to use tactical aviation more actively. This was reported by the spokesperson of the Luhansk Operational Tactical Group. According to him, the average daily number of assaults is now about 20 to 21. Compared to April, this is a slight decrease. Meanwhile, airstrikes have increased and the enemy is actively destroying buildings and small settlements, especially in the Toretsk direction. There is less and less heavy equipment. Russia is focusing on mobility rather than armor. They are using heavy armored vehicles less and less frequently. Instead, assaults are being carried out on motorcycles, buggies and ATVs. The main objective is a rapid breakthrough into a populated area, securing it and waiting for reinforcements for 1 to 3 days. Russia is also actively sending wounded soldiers back to the front. Recovery is carried out as quickly as possible in order to increase the numbers for the elite offensive campaign. At the same time, it is difficult to assess the actual number of personnel in these directions. Rotation is ongoing constantly. Enemy artillery is also hiding there, but not for long. The occupiers are trying to use the artillery covertly to avoid being hit, but the defense forces are managing to destroy enemy guns with fiber optic drones. Control is being maintained. In the Yablunivka direction, Ukrainian troops have managed to stabilize the situation thanks to FPV drones and artillery. The enemy is suffering significant losses. The first waves of the assault are destroyed before they even have a chance to gain a foothold. Overall, the situation is difficult but under control. And that's all for today. Tune in tomorrow for the next news update.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
The Russians are trying to encircle the Siversk region. Right now, it's a decisive moment. FPV drones of a new level, equipped with wings, are striking the enemy. These are true birds of death that literally tear enemy equipment to pieces. Their strikes are a spectacular and precise sweep of the occupiers' heavy equipment. The footage of our defenders' lightning-fast work is mesmerizing. Putin's mercenaries have never been hit this hard before. Don't miss these shocking shots yourself. Watch them right this moment.
A separate battalion of unmanned systems has just been created in the 10th Mountain Assault Brigade Edelweiss. In the new conditions that have developed on this section of the front, this is simply a necessity.
These aren't direct firefights anymore, which for more than a year and a half now basically haven't happened. Now, out of every 10 killed orcs, 9 are taken out precisely by unmanned systems.
The brigade has been holding the defense near Siversk for the second year now, for several weeks in a row. The Russians have been trying to encircle the city.
They are doing everything to cut off our logistics first and foremost, and of course to strike at the pilots' positions. Those are their priority targets right now. Of course, in turn, we have to take certain measures, build our backup positions and lines of defense so that we can change the points from which we operate.
This is one of those positions. The occupiers wouldn't hesitate to use even Iskanders on it if they find it. And here, they fend off drones with a shotgun.
Enemy FPV kamikaze drones reach here. We don't trust electronic warfare, we only trust UAVs.
FPV drones are also used from here against the enemy, but special ones. A simple solution for complex tasks. Darts are basically FPVs, just with wings. It is used in particular to strike enemy guns, that is, for so-called counter-battery warfare. It serves as a replacement for Ukrainian long-range artillery guns. But just imagine that this entire drone, fully assembled, costs 5 times less than a single artillery shell. Despite its primitive appearance, serious engineers worked on this drone. They created a cheap but effective weapon.
The wings are made of foam. The body itself is made of plywood.
They use a tandem charge against enemy equipment.
The shaped charge jet penetrates all targets at a distance of up to 10 meters.
A few warm words written on the wing for the enemy, and the dart takes off into the sky. It can cover up to 50 kilometers, and if it's not being guided to a target, electronic warfare can no longer stop it. Exactly what's needed in the Siversk region.
Within a radius of 30 to 35 kilometers, I can't even remember the last time I saw any heavy equipment or a tank. We focus on logistics, on the movement of any heavy equipment that is likely being prepared for future assaults.
Here, in the lens of the darts, is an enemy armored vehicle. It's the final phase of the flight, and the drone automatically locks onto the target. The crew of the armored vehicle realizes what's happening and scatters just a second before the darts turns it into a firework. Ammunition for the darts is prepared here, in an underground workshop that serves the entire battalion of unmanned systems.
Dart found. Yes, a shaped charge ammunition with a cumulative effect.
Today, winged FPVs are effective, but tomorrow they might lose their relevance. The drone laboratory in the battalion of unmanned systems is forced to respond to changes much faster than the manufacturers of wings or copters.
Nothing can be universal. The Russians always find a way to counter something. They figure out how to jam us. They find ways, they detect our control signals. So it works for a while, but after 2 or 3 months it won't work anymore. That means we have to come up with something new again.
New things don't necessarily have to fly. This is the area of the village of Dvorichna in the Kharkiv region. Here, the 8th Battalion of the 10th Mountain Assault Brigade is holding the defense. The enemy has crossed to the right bank of the Oskil River and captured part of Dvorichna. They are trying to create a bridgehead, and from this bridgehead begin the encirclement of Kupiansk.
Are they making any advances or not? Front line stable?
No line stable. The guys are holding their positions in and near the village.
Delivering food, ammunition, and medicine to the defenders of Dvorichna is extremely dangerous. The crew of this pickup miraculously survived after hitting a shaped charge. At this point, the only solution to help hold the village is ground robotic systems. The guys received one of them with our involvement.
It was this very ground system that was recently purchased thanks to the fundraising campaign you helped support.
The drone is like a kind of multi-tool on tracks. It delivers cargo, evacuates the dead and wounded, sets up barriers, and can even lay mines. There's a separate module for each task.
We drive the machine and set up a minefield, so neither sappers nor engineers nor anyone else is needed for this. It goes right up to the front line.
For now, the terrain and the weather still allow us to drive wheeled robots into Dvorichna.
We handle logistics netting, water, provisions. Now they're unloading.
How far can it travel like that? 10 kilometers there and back. It's practically a drone war, both aerial and ground drones. First and foremost, it's about saving lives.
The robot saves the life of an infantryman, but it can't replace him. Wars are won by people. Ukraine holds its ground wherever the infantry stands. Andriy Tsaplienko, Ilya Shinkarenko, Serhiy Porfilov, TSN Week, 1+1, Marathon, United News.
What a discovery! The Russians have stumbled upon something. There's a Ukrainian trace in the Shahids. Experts are shocked. The enemy is embedding our signal into their drones. Ukraine has decided to go all in, installing Russian SIM cards and driving the occupiers into a dead end. A battle of technologies. More details about this in the following report. Shahids connected to the Ukrainian network.
Every day we find modems and SIM cards like these.
How do Ukrainian SIM cards help the enemy? Is our signal being used for reconnaissance, telemetry, or control? In recent weeks, the topic of equipping Shaheds with Ukrainian SIM cards has been actively discussed in the media. The media have reported that drones are being connected to cell towers, that SIM cards make the mopeds more resistant to electronic warfare, allow for route correction, and even enable video transmission. We are finding out what role mobile SIM cards actually play, what goals the enemy is pursuing, and how Ukrainian forces are countering them. The head of the Center for Radio Technologies, Serhiy Peskreznov, says they study the remains of Shaheds every day and is giving an exclusive demonstration of the enemy device's internal components.
Indeed, we find the GSM modems in the Shaheds. I brought one here to show what they look like. These are very ordinary, standard commercial LTE modems made in China and other countries. And inside these modems, we find SIM cards. These SIM cards are either from the Russian Federation, or sometimes they are roaming SIM cards, or occasionally Ukrainian SIM cards from Vodafone, Kyivstar, or LifeCell.
According to Flash, a modem with the Ukrainian operator's SIM card was first found in a downed UAV 2 years ago. There was a Kyivstar SIM card, and the first modems with MIMOS antennas, which improve connection quality, were simply taped by the Russians directly to the body of the device. This indicated a field experiment, not mass production.
Why are the Russians doing this? They install so-called trackers in Shaheda, and these trackers transmit information to Russia. Where is the Shahed flying? This could be the speed, for example, or the altitude of the Shahed. This information is very important to our enemy, because the enemy studies where our air defense is operating. And if the signal from the Shahed disappears, then our enemy understands that something must have happened to the Shahed.
It was either brought down by radar or destroyed. The Russian drone operator marks these points on the map and prepares to bypass Ukrainian electronic warfare and air defense systems. Telemetry data from UAV's coordinates, trajectory, signs of interference are used by the enemy to plan further strikes, as confirmed to Ekonomichna Pravda by the Defense Intelligence of the Ministry of Defense.
As of today, SIM cards can actually be purchased in Ukraine without a passport or any personal identification. The enemy can obtain such SIM cards and install them in their drones.
There are rumors that SIM cards might also allow for flight adjustments through certain, other communication channels, through other information services. However, no one has received any definitive confirmation of this recently. We still have no confirmation at this time that this signal can actually be stable.
Experts comment that in serial production, Shaheds do not have either cameras or communication systems that would allow them to be controlled in real time. So the GSM module is simply a tracker for monitoring the status of Shaheds, including those that have crashed not far from the launch site. Therefore, the occupiers also install Russian SIM cards in mopeds. Ukraine also uses this technology.
I want to tell you even more. During that famous historic operation carried out over the weekend to neutralize part of Russia's nuclear triad, Russian LTE networks were also used with the help of Russian SIM cards.
On May 25, Russia practiced a total network shutdown during a drone attack. In Ukraine, there are currently no plans to block subscribers on a large scale. They are developing algorithms for blocking SIM cards without harming the population, since communication is critically important for civilians, the military and emergency services.
Our special services are working very closely with mobile network operators, and we are developing special measures, special algorithms, and we are able to find all these modems in the network and disconnect them very quickly. This algorithm includes, for example, a model of where the SIM card was purchased and how quickly it moves across the territory of Ukraine. And if we have, say, an enthusiast driving a BMW who is also moving very quickly somewhere on the highway, the algorithm might mistakenly identify him as a hostile Shahed. And our task is to prevent this from happening.
Another solution to complicate the tracking of enemy drones is the substitution of the digital field, the so-called spoofing.
You can even deceive the system and feed it certain diversionary information, which sometimes allows the Shaheds to turn back toward Russia or Belarus.
Because of this, during attacks, Ukrainian smartphones may suddenly display a false location in another region or even another country. As for selling SIM cards with passport registration, experts' opinions differ. They say it's an important component of national security, but at the same time it creates difficulties for citizens and is unlikely to solve the problem on a global scale. At the same time, the Verkhovna Rada will, for the second time, initiate meetings with mobile operators to address the issue of SIM cards being used in enemy drones. Irina Markiv, Potrobici, Signal Inter, United News.
That's all for this topic. This was me, Darina Hutsakalo. Even more hellish news from the front in our next broadcast. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you soon.